Hi. So, what comes into your mind when you hear or think about an alcoholic or alcohol addiction? What's the first thing that comes to mind? Is it somebody who's drunk and wobbling all over the place and can't walk straight? Is it somebody who's reeking of booze and smells terrible? Is it people who can't control themselves? Is it somebody who's asleep in a ditch? Or is it somebody who's carrying a suspicious looking brown paper bag and drinking out of its contents? Now, depending on where you're from, alcoholism, these are some of the images that alcoholism and alcoholics tend to make people think about. These are the pictures that people have about what alcoholism looks like. Fact of the matter is, alcohol has a lot of faces, and the ones I've just described are only but a few of the faces of alcoholism. Hi, welcome back, everybody, to my channel, The Wandering Wanderer, where we delve and dive into the topic of addiction and sobriety, as well as share tidbits of travel, especially across our beloved continent of Africa. I'm your host, Wendy, and today I want us to debunk some of the myths and stereotypes that surround alcoholics, alcoholism, and maybe to an extent, addiction in general. If it's your first time joining me, thank you. And I recommend you go back and watch episode 1 of our channel so that you can have a bit more of context about what we're trying to do here. Before we go further into what alcoholism is, I did promise you last week that we'll go into subsets and types and share stories, my own and others. I think it's good for us to share what alcoholism is not and what it does not necessarily look like. And hopefully this will help us debunk the stereotypes and help us realize that it can take so many different faces. The first and most probably the most pervasive one is that alcoholism affects only those who are visibly struggling. The homeless, the unemployed, the hopeless, the depressed, those who are fighting mental health issues. You know, the stereotypical drunk. But the reality is, alcohol knows no boundaries. Alcohol affects people of all ages, socioeconomic class, race, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation. It affects professionals like doctors, lawyers, teachers, entrepreneurs, students. It affects the young, the middle-aged, adults, elderly, whether you're rich or poor, and everyone in between. Alcohol doesn't care what you look like, or who you know, or what you have achieved in this life, or who you are connected to. Alcoholism, I think, can best be described as an equal opportunity offender, so to speak. Just because one gets drunk on expensive champagne or liqueur, while another gets high on cheaper brands, doesn't make one any less of an alcoholic than the other. And I think this is important to realize when you're dealing with a topic as sensitive and as profound and as wide as addiction and alcoholism. The second stereotype I wanted to talk about is the idea that alcoholism is a choice. Those struggling with alcoholism simply lack willpower, self-control. Over the years, research has proven that this is not true. Alcoholism and addiction are now considered to be an complex interplay of genetic, environmental, societal, and psychological factors. While it may look like alcoholism is a choice, it really isn't. It's a disease. This is important for us to say out loud. Alcoholism is not a moral failing, but a medical condition that requires kindness, understanding, support, and treatment. And while the journey of sobriety differs from one individual to the other, one thing remains constant: the importance of breaking down these harmful stereotypes so that we can help people seek and receive the support that they so badly need to get better and become more productive members of our society. A third stereotype is that all alcoholics are the same. This is so not true. Remember that image you had in your head when I first asked the question about what alcoholics look like? There's so many faces of alcoholism, and they differ so much from person to person and are affected by a range of factors, including age, geography, socioeconomic status, culture, religion, and so on. Further, the reasons why each of us individually drink affects how somebody might look, how they may behave, or how they perceive society will look at them when they're under the influence. I, for one, will tell you, as a functional alcoholic, you learn very quickly how to mask. And so on the outside, you always look nickel, proper. You look very well presented, and most people will not know you have a problem. Now, if you're a little younger and you're at that age where you drink and consequences be damned, alcoholism looks a little different. It looks like partying and having BYOB parties everywhere you are and not really caring how it looks like. And so how one looks like or how they present themselves under the influence varies very differently based also on where you come from, what your culture looks like, and what your religion. We know some religions actually, encourage people not to drink. And so people have learned how to not look like they're under the influence when they're actually under the influence. A fourth stereotype that is related to alcoholism is gender intolerance. There's this thing where people say, yes, women can't drink as much as men, or men can drink more than women because of tolerance. Listen, that is not true. You find some women who have better tolerance than men by far, some men that have better tolerance. Now, while biologically there might be some matters or some issues that may affect that stereotype, the fact of the matter is our ability to tolerate alcohol is a combination of a lot of factors, and gender is not one of them. It's genetics, it's societal, it's geographical, and at the end of the day, how much you can tolerate really depends on how your body is made up, and number two, just how much you've drunk. If you've been drinking increasingly over 5 years, your tolerance is always going to be better than somebody who started drinking a year ago, right? And so all of these things matter. The last stereotype I want to talk about is one that portrays alcoholics as violent and out of control. We all know the alcoholic who, as soon as they drink, they're as calm as anything. They probably fall asleep on the couch, right? And so not everybody who drinks has pent up aggression. Not everybody who drinks is trying to free themselves of something. There are a lot of reasons why people drink. And I think it's important to not put people into boxes just because we think alcoholism should look one way or another. Behavior of people under the influence differs so much from person to person that it is unfair to put people in these little boxes and expect them to fit in. The one thing that is common for everyone and anyone who drinks is the fact that alcohol affects the brain, and how the brain then affects the body will determine the behavioral impacts that it may have. Why do I think talking about stereotypes matter? Because stereotypes are the first obstacle that people who are trying to free themselves from the demon of alcoholism face. It hinders people from looking for help, from asking for help, because they don't want to be judged. When we challenge these stereotypes as individuals, as people, as family members, we create environments that are more supportive and more compassionate for those who are on the path to recovery. Let us not forget what we said last week. Every single person battling addiction is a mother, is a father, is your sister, is your brother, is a colleague, is someone you go to the same church with. They're people we love and they care, and we care about them, and they care about us. And they deserve a fighting chance, and they need our support to be able to do it. Do you have any stereotypes that you think I left out? Share them with me in the comments below, and let's talk about them. I think it's important that I say this. I'm not going to say that I have all the answers. There are a lot of things I don't know, and I hope you are going to go with me on this learning journey. Teach me. Tell me things that I have missed out or haven't talked about or should be thinking about and reflecting. And let's talk about this. The point of this channel is for us to have a conversation, for you to tell me and for me to share with you my experience, but for you to teach me as well. I don't think any of us, even those with PhDs, have answers or know everything about everything. I think being a lifelong learner is such an essential part of growing up and of being an adult. And so, after all of my talking, I would like to wrap up today's episode and say, I want to thank you for your time. I hope you have learned something new today. Oh my God, I have talked too much today. But I want to thank you for your time and I hope you've learned something new today. If you enjoyed this episode and you want to continue wondering with me, please consider liking, subscribing, and hitting the notification bell to stay updated on future episodes. It would mean the absolute world to me. So thank you in advance. Also, if you have any thoughts, questions, musings, or curiosities around alcoholism, please drop me a line, drop me a comment, and I will do my best to get back to you or address them in future episodes. In the meantime, until next time, which is next week, and next week I'll be sharing my story with you. Until then, stay blessed, and remember, one step at a time, we will get there. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your week. Bye.